Salem's Lot was the 1979 miniseries masterpiece, directed by Tobe Hooper based on the novel by Stephen King. Definitely goes down in history as like one of the greatest made-for-TV horror movies ever. But we're not here to discuss that. Today we're talking about the 1987 sequel, sort of, A Return to Salem's Lot. I will never forget seeing this VHS for the first time in Showtime Video and being like, oh, they made a sequel? Seeing that it was rated R and being genuinely curious. And then one day, I checked the TV guide, yes, I'm that old, and there it is. So I set up a tape for it to record, and I was so excited about watching it the next day. Let's get into it. So we have Michael Moriarty, all right, or as my friend Jack likes to call him, the Walmart Christopher Walken. So Michael Moriarty plays a photographer named Joe Weber. He gets a call from his ex-wife that their son is in big trouble. Picks up the son, Jeremy, and this kid is a little turd. He is obnoxious as shit. He's hands down probably the most annoying part of the movie, if I'm being honest. But anyways, he takes his wayward son and says, well, hey, you know, I grew up in this town of Salem's Lot when I was a little kid. I got sent away, and my aunt left me a little cottage there, so I'll take the boy, and, you know, this will be a great time for him to get some father-son time and hopefully, you know, rid him of all of his juvenile delinquent shit. They go into the town. It's a little bit weird. Nightfall comes, and those of you familiar with the first film know where this is going. Vampires! And a car of unfortunate teenagers get pulled over by the local constable.
You kids ought to know better than to be speeding around Jerusalem's Lot at night.
And one of the teenagers proceeds to mouth off to the cop?
Oh, you mean Salem's Lot? Don't ever go to Salem's Lot. Don't ever go to Salem's Lot. Salem's Lot.
So after, whatever that was, we get this spectacular line delivery.
Are you making fun of our town? I said, are you making fun of our town?
So the vampires start attacking these kids, all right? And two of the teenagers make a getaway through the woods where they run into Yoda's evil brother.
Fuck your skulls, I will.
The one surviving girl holds up in the church for a little bit, and then she winds up making it to the cottage where Joe Weber and his son Jeremy are staying, and he brings her into town to bring her to a doctor. They go to the judge's house. Now this guy, he's also appeared in other Larry Cohen productions, and he's actually a pretty halfway decent actor. Amongst all the vampires of Salem's Lot, we also meet a young Tara Reid, whose career has now come full circle, it seems. The son is immediately smitten with her, and the two go off together. Judge Axel takes Joe around, basically shows him that the vampires have been subsisting off of cattle, which is, you know, a lot more humane than what we do to cattle. Vegan vampires, what the fuck? They want him to write like a vampire Bible for them, like basically just chronicling the history of their species or whatnot. I recall watching this the first time on TV, and I'm just perplexed by all of this. And then they get to the point in the classroom where they start talking about how the vampires came to Salem's Lot, that it wasn't the Mayflower, it was the other ship that everyone else thought had sunk. And it's like, wait a minute, so you can't even begin to pretend that this is a sequel to the first film by any stretch of the imagination. And truth be told, it's really not. It's really a very, very Larry Cohen reimagining. I will say that the movie definitely picks up speed when an old man drives into town, and he's a Nazi hunter. He's looking for an escaped Nazi, and he's by far the most badass character in the story. He puts the obnoxious little shit kid in his place, and he's by far just the best part of the movie. So when all was said and done, and I had finished watching it, I was so thoroughly disappointed. I was so thoroughly disappointed in this film. And to be fair, what's that on the cover? What is that on the cover? That's Barlow. That is the scary as hell vampire from the first Salem's Lot. Guess what? Guess what? We don't get Barlow. We get fucking Yoda. We get fucking Yoda in this movie. What the fuck? Yeah, so that was my first time experience watching A Return to Salem's Lot. As time has passed, I've grown to love this movie. This movie is an absolute disaster in all the best ways. Not only does it not tie in with the first film, it contradicts itself. There are characters like the constable who you know, he's basically what they call a drone, and he's there during the day. He's a caretaker of Salem's Lot, and he talks about how much he hates the vampires and stuff. But then he winds up pulling like a full Jaime Lannister, and it's like, okay, the vampires can't be out in the sunlight, but they can in one scene. And they can't go in the church unless they're having a wedding, and then they can go in the church. It makes absolutely no sense. The movie is a hot mess, but it is an entertaining hot mess. It is a very, very fun, entertaining hot mess. And I would firmly recommend it on 2 conditions, okay? Number 1, you have to understand this is not a sequel to Salem's Lot. This is its own thing. It is a completely different movie. It is a completely different story. The only remote similarity that it bears to the first film is that it takes place in a town called Salem's Lot, and there are vampires there. That is the beginning and the end of anything the 2 films have in common, okay? Number 1. Number 2, it is a bad movie. If you can go in and recognize and realize those 2 things going in, you'll actually probably be pretty damn entertained. This is a movie that is a clusterfuck in just the right way. Anyways, guys, Return to Salem's Lot. Has anybody seen it? Do you think it's a dumpster fire? Do you think it's actually a pretty solid movie in its own right? Let me know what you think. And that's all she wrote.